What is the meaning of time when measured through the eyes of a child? For most, childhood is counted in birthdays, candles, and photographs. But for Olivia, 5 years old and already marked by loss, time was measured by the turning of seasons on the city streets, by the shifting shadows of buildings, and by the moments she dared to dream. Each morning, before the city was fully awake, Olivia wandered with bare feet across the cobblestones. The world was her teacher. She watched shopkeepers open their doors and learned how hands moved in patterns of work. She watched mothers tie their children's shoes and understood tenderness she had never received. Her hunger often tightened her stomach, but her mind was wide, thirsty, alive. Across the street from where she sometimes rested stood a tall private school, with gates of iron and walls of brick softened by ivy. Children in clean uniforms rushed through the entrance, carrying books that smelled of new paper and ink. From behind the fence, Olivia observed them like one gazes at stars, distant, unreachable, yet endlessly fascinating. She learned to read by tracing the shapes of letters in the dust. Copying from chalkboards she glimpsed through windows. She learned numbers by mimicking the children's homework as they whispered answers in the yard. Day after day, season after season, Olivia stood outside the fence, her eyes soaking in everything. Her classroom was the sidewalk, her pencil, a broken stick, her notebook, the earth itself. The other children sometimes noticed her. Some laughed, some turned away. Yet Emma, a girl with soft brown hair and a shy smile, would often glance at Olivia with something close to curiosity, perhaps even compassion. Their eyes met more than once, like silent greetings between two worlds separated by iron bars. One chilly autumn afternoon, the leaves danced in golden swirls across the schoolyard. Olivia, crouched low by the fence, pressed her little hands against the cold metal. She listened as the children struggled with a math lesson. The numbers came naturally to her, though she had no teacher, only the endless patience of her own mind. Then came the sound, a soft sob. Olivia's gaze followed it to Emma, sitting apart, her notebook smudged with eraser marks, her eyes brimming with frustration. "I can't do it," Emma whispered to herself. At that moment, fate shifted. Olivia noticed something she had never seen before, a small gap at the corner of the fence, a space just wide enough for a little body to slip through. Her heart raced. Should she? She hesitated, fear and longing clashing within her. Yet the sound of Emma's tears pulled her forward. Carefully, quietly, Olivia pushed herself through the gap and stepped into the world she had always watched from the outside. The schoolyard smelled of cut grass and chalk dust. For a moment, Olivia froze, her bare feet sinking into the soft earth. Children played and studied all around her, but it was as though the world had narrowed to just two small girls. She approached Emma and knelt beside her. "Do you need help?" Olivia asked, her voice gentle, uncertain. Emma looked up, startled by the stranger. Who are you?" "Just someone who likes numbers," Olivia replied with a shy smile. She picked up the pencil Emma had dropped, studied the problem on the page, and began to explain in the simplest words she knew. Step by step, line by line, the answer unfolded. Emma's eyes widened. That makes sense," Emma whispered, a smile breaking through her tears. In that fragile moment, two worlds touched, the world of the girl with everything and the girl with nothing. And standing at a distance, leaning against the school wall, Noah Smith watched silently. His heart tightened as he took in the scene. A little girl, ragged and barefoot, but with eyes brighter than any jewel, patiently guiding his daughter. He had known grief. His wife's passing had left a silence that even years had not healed. He had raised Emma with love, yet always carried the ache of absence. Now, watching this mysterious child comfort his own, Noah felt something stir within him, a question, a hope, a responsibility he could not yet name. The school bell rang, sharp and clear. Children scattered, the courtyard alive with motion. Emma turned to Olivia, wanting to ask more, to know more, but Olivia had already stepped back. She knew she did not belong here, not truly. She hurried toward the gap in the fence. Yet before she could slip away, Noah's voice cut through the air. "Wait!" Olivia froze. Slowly she turned. Noah's eyes met hers, steady, searching, kind. And in that gaze, something extraordinary began. There are moments in life when a single word changes everything. For Olivia, that word was simple yet heavy with meaning. Wait. She turned slowly, her small frame trembling, unsure whether to run or stay. Noah Smith stood tall in his grey suit, his briefcase resting at his side, his eyes steady yet softened by something she couldn't name. For a moment, silence wrapped around them like a fragile thread. Emma clutched her notebook and hurried toward her father. "Daddy," she whispered, tugging at his sleeve. "She helped me." Her words were filled with awe, as if describing a miracle. Noah knelt, so his eyes met Olivia's. Up close, he could see her tangled hair, the thin fabric of her dress worn nearly to threads, and the bare feet covered in dust. But it wasn't her poverty that struck him. It was her gaze, bright, alert, and unafraid, though life had given her every reason to fear. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Olivia," she replied, her voice quiet but firm. "Olivia," he repeated, tasting the name as though memorizing it. "Do you come here often?" She hesitated. Should she tell the truth? Something inside told her this man was different, so she nodded. "I watch, from the fence." Emma smiled, almost proudly. "She's really smart, Daddy. She explained the problem better than Miss Carter." Noah's lips curved into the faintest smile. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a handkerchief, offering it to Olivia. "Here, for your hands." It was such a small gesture, and yet Olivia's chest tightened. When had anyone last offered her kindness with no condition? Her fingers shook as she accepted it, pressing the soft fabric against her palms as though it were treasure. The bell rang again, signaling the end of recess. Children streamed back into the classrooms. Emma lingered, looking between her father and Olivia. "Can she stay, Daddy? Just for today?" The question pierced Noah's heart. He wanted to say yes, but rules, propriety, the unknown, so many barriers stood in the way. "Not today, sweetheart," he said softly, "but maybe we'll see her again." Olivia lowered her eyes, already stepping back toward the fence. She knew this was the end. Beautiful things in her life never lasted. But Noah spoke again, his voice firm. "Olivia, where do you live?" The question froze her. She looked up at him, wary. "Nowhere." Emma frowned. "Nowhere? Everyone lives somewhere." Olivia shook her head. "Not me." And with that, she turned and slipped through the gap in the fence, vanishing like a shadow into the busy street beyond. That evening, Noah could not push her from his thoughts. While reviewing legal documents, her face appeared between the lines of text. While preparing dinner for Emma, he remembered her small hands clutching his handkerchief. And as he tucked his daughter into bed, Emma whispered, "She's special, Daddy. Don't forget her." Noah sat awake long after the house had grown silent. He had once believed his heart had no more room for new attachments. Losing his wife had nearly broken him, and he had survived only by pouring every drop of love into Emma. Yet now, something stirred. A sense of responsibility, yes, but also a spark of hope. The following days, Noah found himself walking slower past the schoolyard fence, his eyes searching for a small figure. And there she was, Olivia, perched on the curb, a stick in her hand as she drew numbers into the dust. Her brow furrowed in concentration, her lips moving silently as though she were reciting lessons no teacher had given. He approached carefully, not to startle her. "Good morning, Olivia." She looked up, startled, then smiled cautiously. "You remembered my name?" "Of course," he said. "Names matter." He set a small paper bag beside her. Inside was an apple, a sandwich, and a bottle of water. "You need strength to keep learning." Her eyes widened. She stared at the bag, then at him, unsure whether it was real. Slowly, with trembling fingers, she lifted the apple and held it close, as though afraid it might vanish. "For me?" "For you," Noah said. "And tomorrow, if you're here, there will be more." Tears welled in Olivia's eyes, though she tried to hide them. No one had ever given her something simply because she mattered. She bit into the apple, its sweetness flooding her mouth, and for the first time in a long time, she felt human again. That night, as the stars glittered above the city, Olivia lay curled beneath her blanket of newspaper, but now there was warmth in her chest. Someone had seen her. Someone had spoken her name. Someone had cared. And she whispered into the darkness, as though speaking to a mother she no longer remembered. Maybe tomorrow will be different. What is family? Is it blood, or is it love? For Olivia, the word had always been an echo, something she heard others speak of but never truly felt. Until one evening, when life quietly began to rewrite her story. Noah had made a habit of leaving small meals by the fence each day. Sometimes it was a sandwich, sometimes a piece of fruit, sometimes even a book that Emma no longer needed. Olivia always accepted with gratitude, her bright eyes lifting to his with silent thanks. But one chilly evening, as the schoolyard emptied and the sky dimmed to violet, Noah saw her still sitting near the curb, hugging her knees against the cold. A question burned in him, louder than the doubts that tried to silence it. "Olivia," he called softly, would you like to come to dinner tonight?" Her head snapped up. "Dinner?" "Yes," Noah said, his voice gentle but steady. "With Emma and me. Just a meal. Nothing more." She hesitated. In her short life, invitations had always carried hidden costs. Yet Noah's gaze was different, not demanding, not pitying, but safe. Slowly, she nodded. Emma squealed with delight when she saw Olivia step through their front door. The little house smelled of roasted chicken and fresh bread, a warmth so different from the chill of the streets. Olivia's eyes darted everywhere, the framed photographs on the walls, the lamp casting a golden glow, the table set for 3. Noah pulled out a chair. "Here, Olivia. This place is yours tonight." Her small hands trembled as she touched the wooden chair. She had eaten on sidewalks, on stairs, even in alleys, but never at a table set with care. Carefully she sat, almost afraid to move. Emma slid into the chair beside her, grinning. "You'll like Daddy's food. He's not a chef, but he tries." Noah chuckled as he served the plates. "Harsh critic," he said, but his eyes softened when they met Olivia's. He placed a plate before her, chicken, mashed potatoes, and peas. Steam curled upward, carrying a scent so comforting that tears stung Olivia's eyes. "Is it really for me?" she whispered. "Of course," Noah said simply. "Everyone deserves a warm meal." For a while, silence filled the table, broken only by the clink of forks. Olivia ate slowly, reverently, savoring every bite. Emma chatted happily about school, about books she loved, about how Olivia had helped her with math, and Noah listened, his heart swelling with something he had not felt in years, a sense of wholeness. At one point, Emma reached across the table and slipped her hand into Olivia's. "You should come every day," she said earnestly. Olivia froze, her fork suspended in the air. No one had ever said such words to her. She lowered her gaze, whispering, "I don't belong here." Noah leaned forward, his voice low, steady. "Sometimes belonging isn't about where you come from, Olivia. It's about where you are welcomed." The words sank deep into her soul. She did not reply, but the way her shoulders relaxed, the way her lips curved into the faintest smile, told him she had heard. After dinner, Emma pulled Olivia to her room. The small space overflowed with books, stuffed animals, and drawings pinned to the wall. Olivia's eyes widened as Emma handed her a worn teddy bear. "You can borrow him tonight," Emma said. "He's old, but he listens well." Olivia clutched the bear against her chest, her throat tightening. She had never owned a toy, never had something to hold at night except scraps of cloth. She whispered a soft, trembling, "Thank you." Meanwhile, Noah stood in the hallway listening. He thought of his late wife, how she had dreamed of filling this house with warmth and laughter. For so long, grief had left the rooms hollow. But now, hearing the girls' laughter spill from behind the door, he felt as though light had returned. When it grew late, Noah prepared to walk Olivia back toward the schoolyard. But before they left, Emma hugged her tightly. "Promise you'll come again." Olivia nodded, though part of her feared it was too good to be true. As she stepped out into the night, the teddy bear still in her arms, Noah spoke quietly. "Olivia, would you like to come back tomorrow? And maybe the next day?" Her eyes glistened in the moonlight. She wanted to say yes, but her voice faltered. What if I don't deserve it?" Noah knelt so he could look into her eyes. "Listen to me. You deserve kindness. You deserve care. And you deserve a place at the table." Her breath caught. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe it might be true. That night, as she curled beneath the stars, the teddy bear pressed to her chest, Olivia whispered words she had never spoken before. "Maybe. This is what family feels like." Every joy carries a shadow, and every beginning trembles with the memory of what came before. For Olivia, the warmth of Noah's home felt like sunlight breaking through years of clouds, yet the past, though silent, was not gone. It waited, whispering, watching, ready to be heard. The days after that first dinner became a gentle rhythm. Each afternoon, Olivia came to Noah's house. Emma welcomed her like a sister, pulling her into games, stories, and study sessions. Noah watched them with quiet amazement, his heart slowly stitching itself back together. One evening, Olivia sat at the kitchen table with Emma, carefully sounding out words from a children's book. Her small voice stumbled but persevered, determination shining in her eyes. Noah leaned against the doorway, moved beyond words. This child, this orphan of the streets, was teaching him about resilience more than any courtroom ever had. But outside, across the street, an older woman watched. Her grey hair was pulled into a bun, her coat heavy against the autumn chill. In her wrinkled hands, she clutched a photograph so worn its edges had curled. The image showed a young couple smiling with a baby in their arms. The baby's eyes were unmistakable, bright, searching, alive. Olivia's eyes. The woman's name was Margaret, Olivia's maternal grandmother. Margaret had not seen her granddaughter in months. Circumstances, regrets, and her own failing health had kept her away. Yet guilt gnawed at her every night. She had promised her late daughter she would protect Olivia, and yet the little girl had slipped through her fingers, swallowed by the city's shadows. Now, seeing Olivia through the window, laughing, reading, cared for, Margaret's heart ached with both relief and sorrow. Relief that her granddaughter was safe, sorrow that she herself had not been the one to provide it. The next day, Margaret gathered her courage and knocked on Noah's door. Olivia was the one to answer. Her eyes widened at the sight of the woman. Something stirred, an old memory, a faint recognition. "Grandma?" she whispered, her voice fragile. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. She knelt, reaching out with trembling hands. "Yes, my sweet girl, it's me." For a moment, Olivia froze. She wanted to run into those arms, to claim the piece of family she thought she had lost. Yet her body hesitated, torn between longing and fear. Noah appeared in the hallway, his expression cautious. "Who are you?" Margaret stood, wiping her tears. "My name is Margaret. I am Olivia's grandmother." The words fell heavy in the air. Emma peeked from behind her father, sensing the tension but not fully understanding. Olivia clutched the edge of her dress, her heart pounding. That evening they sat in the living room. Margaret explained in halting words how her daughter, Olivia's mother, had passed, how illness and grief had left her too weak to care for a child. I thought she would be better in foster care," Margaret admitted, her voice breaking. "But I was wrong. I lost her, and I have been searching ever since." Olivia listened, silent, her small hands gripping the teddy bear Emma had given her. Noah's jaw tightened. His instinct was to protect, to shield Olivia from any more uncertainty. Yet he also knew the importance of truth. "Olivia deserves stability," he said firmly. "She has found a place here. With us." Margaret's eyes softened as they met his. "I can see that. You've given her what I could not. But she is still my blood, my only family left." The room grew still. Olivia's gaze moved between them, the grandmother she barely knew, and the man who had opened his home and heart. Her small voice finally broke the silence. "Do I have to choose?" The question pierced every heart in the room. Noah's eyes stung, Margaret's lips trembled, and Emma slipped her hand into Olivia's, squeezing tight. That night, after Margaret left, Olivia sat awake in the small bed Noah had prepared for her. She stared at the ceiling, confusion swirling, family, love, belonging, words that seemed so simple for others were tangled knots for her. From the doorway, Noah watched her. "You don't have to decide anything now, Olivia," he whispered. "Just know this, you are not alone anymore." Olivia turned her head, her eyes glistening. "But what if she takes me away?" Noah stepped closer, kneeling beside her. "Then we will face it together, whatever comes." For the first time that night, Olivia allowed herself to rest, though her dreams were filled with voices of the past and promises of tomorrow. And somewhere in the quiet darkness, Margaret prayed. She prayed for forgiveness, for wisdom, and for the strength to do what was truly best for the little girl with eyes like her daughter's. The past had returned, whispering its claim. But the future, oh, the future still waited to be written. Belonging is not written only in blood. It is written in kindness, in sacrifice, in the arms that hold you when you are afraid. But the law often tells a colder story. The days after Margaret's visit were heavy with uncertainty. Olivia still came to Noah's home, but a quiet fear followed her, like a shadow she couldn't shake. Emma noticed it too, the way Olivia's laughter sometimes faded mid-sentence, the way she hugged the teddy bear tighter at night. One evening, as the girls colored at the kitchen table, Noah sat across from Margaret in the living room. Papers lay between them, legal documents, custody forms, the weight of decisions too heavy for any child to carry. "I want what is best for her," Margaret said softly, her voice trembling. "But I can't ignore that she is my granddaughter, my daughter's child. I failed her once. I don't want to fail her again." Noah's eyes met hers, steady and compassionate. "And I don't want to take her away from her blood family. But Margaret, you saw what she was living through. She was surviving on the streets. She deserves stability, consistency. She deserves a home." Margaret's gaze fell to her hands, aged and trembling. "Do you think I don't know that? Every night I see her mother's face, asking me why I wasn't strong enough. I love Olivia, but I am old. My health is failing. What if I cannot give her what she needs? The question hung heavy in the air. For a moment, neither spoke. Only the soft hum of Emma and Olivia's laughter floated in from the kitchen, two children colouring as though the world beyond crayons and paper did not exist. The next week, Noah filed a petition for custody. It was not an act of defiance, but of protection. He wanted to give Olivia a chance at permanence, not a life of shifting guardians and uncertainty. The courthouse was a solemn place, its tall windows letting in pale light. Olivia clung to Noah's hand, her small frame dwarfed by the echoing halls. Emma sat beside them, whispering encouragement, as though her voice alone could keep her sister from fear. When Margaret entered the courtroom, her step slow but determined, Olivia's heart twisted. She wanted to run to her, to embrace her. But she also wanted to stay pressed against Noah's side, where she had begun to feel safe. The judge looked upon them all with patient eyes. "This is not an easy matter," he began. "We must consider both the bonds of family and the best interests of the child." Testimonies were given. Teachers spoke of Olivia's brilliance despite never being enrolled. Neighbours described Noah's devotion as a father, and Margaret, her voice breaking, admitted her shortcomings. "I am not as strong as I once was," she confessed, "but I love Olivia with everything I have left. And yet, when I see her with Mr. Smith and Emma, I see a light in her I have not seen since my daughter lived. Perhaps love is sometimes knowing when to let go." Tears welled in Olivia's eyes. She wanted to stand, to shout, "I choose them all!" But her small voice could not carry such weight. The judge leaned forward. "Olivia, would you like to say something?" Her heart pounded. Every face in the room turned toward her. She gripped Noah's hand tighter, her voice trembling but clear. "I don't want to lose Grandma," she whispered. "But I don't want to lose Daddy, Noah, and Emma either. I just want a family. A home where I can belong." Silence fell. The truth in her words pierced deeper than any legal argument. The judge nodded slowly. "This court recognizes the profound love in this room. Margaret, your devotion is undeniable. But the future must be built with what the child needs most. And so, custody will be granted to Noah Smith, with full visitation rights to the grandmother." Margaret closed her eyes, tears streaming freely, not of defeat, but of release. She turned to Noah, her voice a whisper. "Take care of her. Promise me." Noah's throat tightened. He reached across the table, covering her fragile hand with his. "I promise." That night, back at home, Olivia sat at the dinner table, her plate full but her heart fuller still. She looked at Noah, at Emma, at the seat they had left empty for Margaret to join whenever she wished, and for the first time she dared to believe, "This is my family, my place." Noah raised his glass of water, his eyes shining. "To new beginnings," he said. And with a soft, trembling smile, Olivia whispered back, "To belonging." Names carry stories. They are more than sounds. They are echoes of belonging, whispers of identity, promises of home. For Olivia, her name had always floated like a leaf in the wind, unanchored, uncertain, until the day she was given a new one. The paperwork was complete, the court's seal stamped. Yet for Olivia, the true moment came not with signatures, but with the trembling of her heart. It was a bright spring morning when Noah held her hand and led her through the courthouse doors once again. Emma skipped beside them, her braids bouncing with every step. Margaret, though frail, walked close behind, her eyes shining with quiet pride. Inside the small chamber, the judge greeted them warmly. "Today," he said, "we are not here to decide, but to celebrate." His voice softened as he looked at Olivia. "Child, you have been given a family not only by law, but by love. Do you understand what this means? Olivia nodded, though her throat was tight. The judge smiled gently. Then let it be known, from this day forward, you shall be Olivia Smith, daughter of Noah Smith, sister of Emma Smith. The words fell like music. Olivia's eyes widened, her lips parting as though tasting the name for the first time. Olivia Smith. A name with roots, a name with shelter, a name that meant she belonged. Emma threw her arms around her. Now you're really my sister. Noah bent down, his voice low, filled with emotion. Welcome home, Olivia Smith. Later that day, they celebrated with a small gathering at Noah's house. Balloons floated above the table, and Margaret brought a cake she had baked with shaky hands but steady love. Olivia sat between Emma and Noah, her cheeks glowing with joy. As everyone sang, Olivia closed her eyes, savoring the moment. She had never had a birthday cake, never had a song sung for her. And though this wasn't a birthday, it felt like the day she had been born into a new life. When she blew out the candles, she whispered a wish, not for food, not for toys, not even for books, but for courage to keep this happiness safe. That evening, Noah surprised her with a small box. Inside lay a silver necklace with a simple pendant, a tiny engraving of the letter S. It stands for Smith, Noah explained, but it also stands for strength. A reminder of who you are now and who you have always been. Olivia touched the pendant with trembling fingers. Her eyes brimmed with tears. It's mine? All yours, Noah said. She leaned into him then, small arms wrapping around his neck. Thank you, Daddy. The words slipped out unplanned, fragile, trembling, but real. Noah froze for just a heartbeat, then held her tighter, his own tears falling freely. He'd been called many things in his life, lawyer, widower, father to Emma, but this was different. This was healing. That night, Olivia lay in the small bed now truly hers, the necklace resting against her chest. Emma slept soundly in the next room, Margaret dozed in the guest bed, and Noah sat in his study, reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. For Olivia, sleep did not come quickly. Her heart was too full. She whispered her new name again and again into the darkness, as if practicing Olivia Smith, Olivia Smith. It felt strange on her tongue, yet warm in her soul. She thought of the years she had spent watching from outside the school fence, of nights curled beneath newspaper, of mornings when her stomach ached with hunger. Those days were part of her story, but they no longer defined her. Now she had a family, a home, a name. And with that name, she began to dream not just of survival, but of a future. As the moonlight filtered through the window, Olivia finally drifted into sleep, her hand resting on the pendant, her lips curved into the faintest smile. For the first time in her life, she no longer wondered where she belonged. She knew. The morning sun spilled through the curtains like golden threads, weaving a new beginning. For Olivia, this was not just another day. It was the day. The day she would walk into a classroom, not as a shadow peering from behind a fence, but as a student with her own desk, her own books, her own place. Noah knocked gently on her door. "Rise and shine, Olivia Smith. Ready for your first day?" She sat up quickly, her heart racing at the sound of her new name. On the chair by her bed lay the neatly pressed uniform Emma had helped her choose the night before. A crisp white blouse, navy skirt, and a small cardigan that still smelled faintly of the store. Next to it, a backpack, her very first, filled with pencils, notebooks, and the weight of dreams too large to fit in paper. Olivia touched the fabric as though it were fragile silk. For years she had envied children who carried backpacks like these, and now she had one of her own. She dressed slowly, savoring every button, every fold, as if each detail confirmed the reality of her new life. When she came down the stairs, Emma was already waiting, bouncing with excitement. "You look perfect," Emma exclaimed. "We're going to sit together at lunch, okay?" Olivia smiled shyly. "Okay." At breakfast, Margaret served warm porridge with honey. She fussed over Olivia's hair, smoothing it gently as though to erase the years of neglect. "You'll do wonderfully, dear," she said. "Remember, knowledge is not just in books, it's in kindness, in listening, in courage." Olivia nodded, tucking those words into her heart like an invisible bookmark. When they arrived at the school gates, Olivia paused. The iron bars that had once felt like prison walls now seemed like open arms. She remembered standing outside them, small and unseen, tracing letters in the dust. Now she walked through them proudly, her hand clasped in Noah's. Inside, the courtyard buzzed with the chatter of children. Some laughed, some whispered, some glanced curiously at the new girl. Olivia's stomach tightened, but Noah squeezed her hand. "You belong here," he said softly. The teacher, Mrs. Reynolds, greeted her with a warm smile. "Welcome, Olivia Smith. We're glad to have you." Hearing her full name spoken aloud in that room filled with desks and books was almost too much. Olivia's throat tightened, but she managed a nod. Mrs. Reynolds introduced her to the class, and Olivia took her seat beside Emma. The desk felt cool beneath her fingers, the pages of her notebook crisp and waiting. For the first time, the chalkboard was not a distant mystery. It was hers to read, hers to learn from. The morning lessons passed in a blur of wonder. Olivia copied each word carefully, her handwriting shaky but determined. Numbers danced across the page, and for once she didn't just solve them in the dust of the street, she solved them where they belonged, in the quiet scratch of pencil on paper. At recess, some children gathered around, curious about the new student. "Where did you come from?" one asked. Olivia hesitated, her past heavy on her tongue, but Emma stepped in. "She's my sister," she said firmly. "That's all you need to know." The children nodded, satisfied, and soon they were teaching Olivia their games. Laughter bubbled from her lips, awkward at first, then free. For the first time, she wasn't watching play from a distance. She was part of it. When the bell rang at the end of the day, Olivia rushed to Noah, her face glowing. "Daddy, I wrote my name on the board, and I read out loud." Noah knelt to meet her eyes. "And how did it feel?" Olivia clutched her backpack, her voice trembling with joy. "It felt like I was alive for the first time." Noah hugged her tightly, his heart swelling. For him, too, this was a beginning, not just for Olivia, but for their family. That night, Olivia placed her notebook on the bedside table, opening it to the first page where she had carefully written, "Olivia Smith." She traced the letters with her finger, smiling in the dark. The fence of dreams was behind her now. Before her stretched a path of books, classrooms, and endless possibility. And for the first time, she didn't just believe in education. She believed in herself. For a while, the glow of Olivia's first days at school felt unbreakable. Each morning she walked through the gates with Emma by her side, her backpack swinging like a flag of triumph. She soaked in every lesson, filled every page with neat handwriting, and laughed at recess like a child who had never known sorrow. But shadows do not vanish easily. They linger, whispering at the edges of joy. One afternoon, as Mrs. Reynolds called on her to read aloud, Olivia's hands began to shake. The letters blurred on the page. She remembered nights on the cold ground, trying to read scraps of newspapers left in the street. She remembered the ridicule of strangers when she stumbled over words. "Olivia?" Mrs. Reynolds prompted gently. Her cheeks burned. The classroom seemed to close in around her, every whisper a knife. She forced the words out, halting uneven, her voice cracking like fragile glass. Some children giggled. Olivia wanted to disappear under her desk. She could almost hear her old self saying, "You don't belong here. This isn't for you." That evening, she pushed her dinner away untouched. Noah noticed immediately. "Olivia, what's wrong?" She shook her head. I don't want to go back. I don't belong. The other kids are smarter. They laugh when I can't read." Her words carried the weight of years spent outside the school fence, years of believing education was for others. Noah leaned forward, his eyes steady. "Listen to me, Olivia. You belong there as much as anyone else. Do you know why?" She looked up, uncertain. "Because you've already fought harder than most children ever will. You learned letters from dust. You practiced numbers with no paper, no books. That strength is yours, and no one can take it away." Tears welled in her eyes. "But what if I fail?" Noah pulled her into his arms. "Then we try again. That's what family is for." The next day, Mrs. Reynolds asked the class to write a short story about their families. Olivia froze. The other children scribbled easily. Stories of birthdays, vacations, pets. Olivia's pencil hovered above the paper. Her mind filled with images she wanted to forget. Empty nights, strangers' footsteps, hunger gnawing at her stomach. What kind of story could she write? She pressed her pencil down and wrote slowly, "Once there was a girl who had no family. She used to watch other children from far away. Then one day, a man found her, and he gave her a name. He gave her a sister. He gave her love. And that girl learned that family is not always the one you're born into, but the one who chooses you." When she handed it in, her hands trembled. But Mrs. Reynolds read it silently, then looked at Olivia with tears in her eyes. "This," she said softly, "is the bravest story I've ever read." Despite moments of courage, the shadows still came. A slammed locker would make her flinch. An unexpected hand on her shoulder would send her heart racing. At night, she sometimes woke up crying, the echo of loneliness pressing against her chest. Emma, ever attentive, noticed. One night, she crawled into Olivia's bed and whispered, "You don't have to be scared anymore. I'm here, always." Olivia clutched her sister's hand in the dark, her breathing slowly evening out. Weeks later, the school announced a spelling contest. The thought alone made Olivia's stomach churn. But when Noah encouraged her to try, she whispered, "I can't. What if I stand there and everyone laughs again?" Noah knelt beside her. "Then they'll see a girl who was brave enough to stand. Courage doesn't mean you're never afraid. It means you stand up even when you are." Something in his words lit a small flame inside her. She wasn't sure if she could win, but perhaps she could try. One evening, Margaret found her sitting at the table, practicing word after word with fierce concentration. "You remind me of someone," Margaret said, with a gentle smile. "Who?" Olivia asked without looking up. "Myself, many years ago. I was the first in my family to go to school. I was terrified every day. But I kept going, and look where I am now." Olivia paused, letting those words sink in. She wasn't alone in her struggle. Others had walked this path before her. The past still clung to her like an old coat, heavy, worn, hard to shake off. But each day at school, with every new word she learned, every hand Emma squeezed in reassurance, every hug from Noah and Margaret, the coat grew lighter. Olivia began to understand something profound. The past would always be part of her, but it did not have to define her. She could carry it not as a burden, but as proof of how far she had come. And slowly, almost without noticing, she started to believe that the future was hers to write. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the resolve to face it. For Olivia, fear had been a companion for years, lingering in every corner, whispering that she was not enough. But today, it would meet her in the light of the classroom. The auditorium buzzed with excitement and nervous energy. Children from every grade lined the stage, their eyes wide, their notebooks clutched tightly. Parents, teachers, and even Margaret and Noah sat in the audience, a sea of faces filled with anticipation. Olivia's hands shook as she stepped onto the stage. She could hear her own heartbeat thundering in her ears, memories of the streets, the nights alone, the hunger, the cold concrete beneath her, threatened to crash over her like waves. Emma whispered from the front row, "You've got this, Olivia." "I believe in you." Noah's hand squeezed hers from the side, grounding her. Margaret's soft smile, warm and encouraging, gave her a small spark of courage. The first few rounds passed quickly. Children spelled words like butterfly, sunshine, and river with ease, their confidence filling the room. Olivia watched them, her stomach twisting. When it was her turn, the word she was given was perseverance. Her throat tightened. She remembered the definition, remembered hearing it in stories, whispered by Mrs. Reynolds in the classroom. She drew a deep breath, recalling every challenge she had faced, every obstacle she had overcome. Perseverance, she spelled, each letter leaving her lips with growing strength. The auditorium held its breath. The judge smiled. "Correct," he said. Round after round, the words grew harder. Benevolence, resilience, determination. Olivia stumbled once on benevolence, her first mistake, but Mrs. Reynolds gave her a reassuring nod. She remembered Noah's words. "Courage doesn't mean you're never afraid. It means you stand up even when you are." She straightened, took a deep breath, and corrected herself silently in her mind before spelling it again. The room erupted in applause. Finally, it came down to the last round. Olivia faced the final word. Home. She paused. The word was simple, yet it carried a weight heavier than any long, complicated word she had spelled before. It reminded her of alleys, fences, and nights curled in newspaper. But it also reminded her of warmth, of Noah's house, of Emma's laughter, of Margaret's gentle hands, of her new name, Olivia Smith. Her voice was steady now, filled with quiet certainty. "Show me." The judge smiled broadly. "Correct. Olivia Smith is the winner of this year's spelling contest." The auditorium erupted into applause. Olivia blinked, stunned, as teachers, classmates, and parents rose to cheer. Emma leaped from her seat, running to hug her. "You did it! You did it!" Noah lifted her off her feet, spinning her around. "I've always known you could do it, Olivia. I'm so proud of you." Margaret's eyes glistened with tears. She embraced Olivia, whispering, "You've found your strength, my dear. You've always had it, and now the world can see it too." That night, Olivia lay in bed, her spelling trophy on the bedside table, a quiet glow of pride in her heart. She traced the letters on the trophy, feeling their weight, feeling her journey reflected in each curve and edge. She remembered the fences, the nights alone, the cold meals. She remembered fear, doubt, and uncertainty, but she also remembered the hands that held hers, the voices that encouraged her, the love that refused to let her fall. Home. The word wasn't just on the trophy. It was in her heart. It was in Noah's arms, in Emma's laughter, in Margaret's warmth. It was her new life, her family, her belonging. The next morning, Olivia walked into school with a quiet confidence. She no longer feared mistakes, no longer doubted herself. She had faced the stage, faced her fears, and triumphed, not just in spelling, but in life. Mrs. Reynolds smiled as Olivia entered the classroom. "Well done, Olivia Smith," she said. Olivia's lips curved into a small, proud smile. "Thank you," she whispered. "I learned it's not just about the words, it's about believing in yourself." Noah watched from the doorway, pride swelling in his chest. He knew that Olivia had won more than a trophy. She had won herself, and in that victory, she carried the whispers of the past not as chains, but as reminders of how far she had come. Life is not a straight line. It bends, it twists, it carries us through shadows and light alike. And sometimes, just when we think the story is set, a single moment rewrites everything. For Olivia, that moment had been a long time coming. From the streets to the schoolyard, from a life of silence and watching to a life filled with love and laughter, each step had been carved with courage. And now, as she sat at the kitchen table with Emma, Noah, and Margaret, she understood the fullness of what had been given to her. A family, a home, and a future brimming with possibilities. Margaret poured tea into delicate cups, the aroma of chamomile filling the room. "Do you know," she said, her eyes glistening, "how proud I am of you, Olivia. You've faced more in your 5 years than most people see in a lifetime." Olivia smiled softly, her small fingers tracing the rim of her cup. "I had help," she said. "I had all of you." Emma leaned over and whispered, "And I'll always be here." Noah watched them, heart full. "Family is what you make it," he said gently. "Sometimes love chooses us, even when the world doesn't." That afternoon, Olivia returned to her desk in school, a stack of books in front of her. She remembered the first day she had sneaked glances through the school fence, wishing she could belong. And now she did. She could sit, write, read and learn without fear, supported by a family that had fought for her, loved her and believed in her. Her teacher, Mrs. Reynolds, smiled as she approached. "Olivia, I see the sparkle in your eyes. Keep it. It will carry you far." Olivia nodded, feeling the truth in those words. Sparkle, courage, resilience, words that had defined her journey and now defined her as she stepped into the rest of her life. Evenings at home became a tapestry of ordinary yet extraordinary moments. Laughter around the dinner table, quiet storytelling before bed, handwritten notes tucked into backpacks. Every gesture, every word was a stitch in the fabric of a family finally complete. Margaret sometimes sat quietly by the window, watching Olivia and Emma play in the garden. "Your mother would have loved this," she murmured to Noah one evening. Noah nodded. "And now we continue her legacy through Olivia." The little girl ran past them, giggling, chasing butterflies. Her world was no longer streets, fences, or shadows. Her world was filled with love, learning, and the promise of tomorrow. One quiet night, Olivia lay in her bed, the silver necklace resting against her chest. She closed her eyes and whispered the words she had longed to say for so many years. "I belong. I am loved. I am Olivia Smith." And in that simple declaration, she felt the past finally ease its grip. The hunger, the cold, the loneliness, they were chapters, yes, but no longer the whole story. She thought of every obstacle she had faced, every night she had spent wishing for warmth, every stolen moment she had spent learning from afar. Those memories had shaped her, but they did not define her future. She could now write her own story, one filled with hope, family, and possibility. The next morning, Olivia stepped outside into the sunlight, her backpack snug on her shoulders, Emma by her side, Margaret watching from the doorway, and Noah following with a proud smile. "Ready for another day?" Noah asked. Olivia nodded, her eyes bright. "Yes, another day to learn, another day to belong." Emma grabbed her hand. "And we'll face it together." Olivia looked up at the sky, the clouds glowing with the soft pink of dawn. She thought of the fences she had once watched, the nights she had spent alone, the dreams she had dared to whisper in the dark. And now, every dream was possible. Every day was a new page, because she was no longer just Olivia, the girl who watched. She was Olivia Smith, and her life had been rewritten. As the sun rose higher, casting golden light across the small garden, Olivia took a deep breath. The world was wide, full of challenges, full of beauty, full of love, and she was ready. Noah, Emma, and Margaret watched her go, hearts full, knowing that the journey of healing, love, and courage was only just beginning. Olivia's story reminds us that family is not always where we expect it to be, and that the past, no matter how heavy, can be transformed through love, courage, and resilience. Life may challenge us, but it also offers moments of grace, hope, and belonging. And sometimes all it takes is one act of kindness to rewrite a life forever. If you enjoyed this story, like and subscribe this video for more.